The sum function is basically the ultimate party budgeter or planner. It takes a list of numbers and adds them all together to give you one big total. So ultimately, what it's going to do is add all the numbers in a column. The syntax will be the sum function followed by the particular column that you want to add all the numbers in. The return can be potentially a decimal number. You could get a whole number. I mean, you name it, right? So that is what it's going to return. An example would be, let's say I own a candy shop, right? And in this candy shop, I'm trying to figure out the total candies that I sold. So I would say total candies equals sum of my sales table, candies sold. That's the general nature here. Let's go ahead and see it in action. So looking at our starting file, we're going to go to the very first page noted as sum. Here we already have the sales territory country followed by something that is the sum of sales amount. Sales amount is actually a column on our fact internet sales table. And you can see that here. Now what's happening is that sigma symbol adjacent to the sales amount lets me know that Power BI notices the value and it's a number. And what it's going to do is by default provide me some form of aggregation, sum of sales amount. This is an implicit measure. What we're going to do is use the sum function explicitly. We're actually going to go and make it and compare them side by side. All right. Let's do it. So I'm going to go to my measures table, and on my measures table, I'm going to right click my measures table. By doing that, I'm going to see new measure right at the top. The reason I'm doing that is I know I want the measure to go there. I want it to be housed in that table. Of course, I could at the top of our screen here, press new measure, very easily create it, right? But just not to get lost, I'm going to right click and hit new measure. Now, one of the tips I tell people is this might be hard to see for you. So what you can do is click inside that formula bar. The formula bar that has emerged is where we're going to go ahead and write all of our aggregations. Now, it's hard to see at first sometimes. So what you can do is click in the formula bar and hold the control key on your keyboard. From there, you can use your mouse wheel inside the formula bar to make it larger or smaller. If you can't use your mouse wheel, don't worry. All you need to do is hold control and use the minus sign or the plus sign to make this a little bit bigger. So you've got two options here. You got the mouse wheel and you've got that plus or minus sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name here. And the name I'm going to change this to, let's go ahead and change this up. We're going to go with total sales. Now, everything to the left of the equal sign is going to be the name. Everything over to the right is going to be the actual function. Now, once I hit spacebar here, I can start typing. A, B, C, and all of my functions emerge. What I'm looking for is this sum function. To access the sum function, I can now hover over it or use my keyboard to find it and hit enter. I also can bring my mouse over and select it. Notice here that it's going to showcase to me the syntax, sum followed by the column name, and the base of what it does. It adds all the numbers in a column. Now we're after the sum of the fact internet sales amount. So I'm going to refer to my table first, which is a single tick, fact internet sales. There it is. Then I'm going to refer to my column. To refer to a column, remember that you are going to use a square bracket. A square bracket will allow me to now put the name of the particular column I'd like. And it's already autofilled for me. So I can hit enter here. And the first rule of DAX Fight Club is when you have that open parentheses, you got to close it. So I'm going to go ahead and close the parentheses. And now I have my total sales equals the sum of the fact internet sales table sales amount. So it's going to look at the total number provided from adding up all the numbers in that column. I'll hit enter here, and well, so far, all I'm going to see is one measure in my measures table. I note it's a measure here because it has that calculator symbol that lets me know, hey, this is a measure. At this point in time, I could get rid of my Greg was here column and just have my measure. And in fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to right-click Greg was here, delete that column. Goodbye. We don't need you anymore for now. All right, the real Greg is here. And now I have just total sales. Easiest way to go about this is I can click on this blank card visual over to the right and drag in total sales. I can drag total sales into my fields or Pro Move here, Pragmatic Works Pro Move, bring it into the card and drop it. Look at that. Now I can see that I have about $29.3 million in total sales. But how does this differ from the implicit measure that we just looked at? Well, if I grab total sales and bring it into this table instead, I'm starting to scratch my head and go, Greg, these are literally the same thing. Yes, right? The implicit measure that Power BI is doing is a sum. The explicit that we use the sum function for works the same way. Now, I don't want my total sales to be looking like this, so I'm going to click on total sales, and then across the top, I'll see measure tools. Easily, I can go to formatting here, find my $sign, hit the drop down, and I'm going to make this an English US currency. Now I have those $signs, I can reuse that. So what we've been able to see here is there's a pretty much no difference between the explicit total sales measure and the sum of sales amount. We also see how the value is being filtered down with that 29 million being assessed by country, right? That whole table gets to see 9 million and still the total. If I were to bring in, let's say, something else, maybe instead of just sales territory country, I brought in dim date, calendar year. What if I brought that in as well? Notice how my values will be changed. The sum, the total at the bottom here, will remain the same, but the values will be shown in a different way, right? It's assessing this in the basis of the country the country column and the year. If I look at my model view, I know this can work because in my model, I can see in my model that fact internet sales is filtered by dim sales territory and dim date. So I've added all that up and I have a pretty awesome result. Now, great stuff here. This is that sum function in action. But the question becomes, what if I have some extra pieces that I need to consider in that sum function? Maybe I need to evaluate what's going on row by row rather than just this total amount. That is what we can leave later on. And that is the sum function. Adds up all of the numbers in that column. Isn't it neat?